What is up, gamers? Chances are, if you grew up with fairy tales, you probably heard of the grim tale of Hansel and Gretel before. And if you had let's say, a crippling addiction to Flash games, you probably found yourself going on a site called Newgrounds, and playing a game called Gretel and Hansel on a school night. This two-part Flash series is one of those games I'm sure a lot of you guys probably look back at sometimes with a tear going down your face. So I thought, why not take a quick look back to see what's been going on with this goated series. Let's start by saying that both these games were pretty damn successful and had almost 5 million plays on just Newgrounds since 2009. This much popularity definitely warranted another addition to this series, right? And so the beta was announced in 2011, and 2 years after that, concept art also dropped, bringing the hype pretty high. But on October 2013, the updates seemed to stop coming in, and hopefully people like little Renee here was able to forgive and forget a series like this. But why would you? Because on January 24th, 2018, the dev posted on Newgrounds stating that he's still alive and there's some big news coming soon. Any second now. There we go. 7 years later, a profile picture changed, and a banner, and a teaser video, and my meat? Sorry, I meant the meat. A link that went to a page titled Gretel and Hansel, Something is Coming, along with a little timer at the bottom. Well, I was okay with waiting 15 years before, but not a day and a half now, so this can GTFO. Refreshing the page changed the text to coming to 2025. Scrolling down, we found out that it's not only a third game, but a reimagining of the first and second. That, of course, was only insanely hype, so I looked further and found the FAQ, where we get some very much needed answers. The game seems to be coming out on Steam in the 4th quarter of 2025, along with other platforms later. And something I found funny is that the reason why it took them so long is that they're a small team, and big surprise, they have a real life with real jobs. Anyways, time to jump into some of these teasers, and boy oh boy, these are some straight beautiful shots. All the art is made by hand with watercolor, which is what makes this series even more special. Seeing this makes me want to play the OG games once more, and I think it's what I'm going to do. So, if you want to juice up your nostalgia levels, stick around because the rest of the video will be a fully edited view of both the first and second game. Along with every death to come, because let's be real, we were some messed up kids who loved the violence. So let's jump right into it. This game is obviously a lot like the OG story. You have a poor woodcutter and his wife who's been sipping that drink too much. She chews him out, and as soon as they walk inside the door, it's slammed hard enough to wake up our protagonist, Gretel. Well, Gretel peeps on them and finds out that Mother is saying none of the food will last, and so we will all die. Which is true considering the original Hansel and Gretel story is related to the Great Famine of 1315. So, as a solution, Mother says that we should just abandon our kids in the woods, which honestly is better than the real alternative, cannibalism. But of course, the dad objects to that, and suggests that they should leave them there, safe and sound. So, that starts a fight, and honestly, if this is really back then, he probably would have just...
Oh, are you alright?
But that's not the case, and so he concedes, looking defeated, and the children's fate sealed. Okay, so that leaves Gretel in high gear now, and she needs to get her brother on the same page, but first, we have to wake him. Making a loud noise by breaking the window didn't really work, I just let it fly in. Shooting Hansel with literal rocks also doesn't seem to work, but it does prove that all those days of mewing does help. What does work here is shooting the fly straight into his mouth, and this guy chews it straight up like it's kid cuisine on a Saturday afternoon. And one big difference between the game and the story worth mentioning is that Hansel isn't the main character like the OG story, it's Gretel. And so Gretel begins to expertly explain, with words and body language, how we have no food so we're going to die, and our mother wants to leave us to die. And did I mention we're going to die? Well, with our brother being no help, Gretel comes up with the idea of collecting shiny stones, so that on the way to the woods, they can leave a trail that can take them back home, reuniting them with their father. It seems Hansel also has something to add to this, and this dude straight up regurgitates a doll, so I guess we had that now as well. Well, this is the part of the game now where we have to lock in and collect stones, and that starts with us going outside. Out here, we get a big hub where we have a ton of things that look interactable. But I always like to start by getting the easy stones first, so...
1, 2, 3, 4.
Underneath the crow also shows a hidden stone, but that's for later. Everything here now are multi-step puzzles. So, let's start with grabbing this twig. In this game, you can use items to interact with other things in the environment. And so, since I'm controlling Gretel now, I begin by doing the first dumb thing, and that's knocking down the beehive, giving us our first death. And one thing I love about this game is how violent these deaths can be. And trust me, with all my years of looking at Stickman execution videos, I know my violence. Well, we can't do the beehive puzzle yet, so let's try to get rid of that bird. Picking up Hansel's drawing and walking up to the fireplace shows that we can start a fire. What we had to do here was shoot the pipe, giving off a spark, and igniting the paper. This not only smokes the bird out of its nest, but also gives me my favorite death, where instead of helping me, this idiot Hansel is copying my every move as if we're playing Simon Says. Really funny stuff. Well,
He's about to really find out how funny I thought it was because we won't need to go to the woods once I'm done with him.
coming outside, we can see that the bird did fly off, leaving me his stone, but I won't be picking up that just yet. Instead, something else was going to pick me up for my 4th death. And I gotta say, looking back at some of these Flash games, it makes me wonder how violence like this reached so many of us, and it was just totally fine back then. I ain't complaining though. Shooting the spider only pissed it off, so I instead shot this web, giving me a wheel. This was useful for later though. In the background, I also noticed a hidden stone. We can also pick up this mushroom, which has an unexpected use, that being to eat it, giving us the power to just straight up gas these honeybees. Well, now we can throw our doll in there, covering it in honey, and giving us our 6th stone. Going back to the spider, we throw the doll underneath his dumbass, and in one fell swoop, it's not a problem anymore. And now, we only needed 3 stones, so off to the last area, where we had a couple things to do here. Starting off with picking up an acorn behind the stump, and after that, coming up to what is probably a Monty Python reference. But it doesn't exactly go in the way that rabbit in that movie dispatches its foes.
Jesus Christ! I warned you!
Instead, it's a much, much, much slower death. Well, coming up, we can see that this raven has a stone, which it drops when I get close, so I shoot this little asshole. Picking up this bucket clearly wants me to pull the stone up, but some type of magic covers the well before I can. This starts a puzzle where you have to shoot the flowers, but they go out over time. I don't really understand it, so the aim tuner begins now. That didn't actually take too long. Brute force always works. Anyways, throwing the bucket down and pulling it up gave me my 8th stone. My 9th stone actually rolled out on its own, but this little rat bastard taunts you by running with it. So I ended up trapping him, and as I picked up my stone, it glitched, counting as 2. This meant that I was only able to stone this guy twice before it whisked me away to the end game. This starts a cutscene where Mother's plan is finally going to effect. She's going to take us to the woods. Gretel is smart like usual and tries to get more info about the situation, but Mother isn't having it and quickly shuts it down. She also tells us to move. This immediately puts us in the run, and I'll start by showing you guys all the deaths here. I'm also doing this first because I immediately died, which is just a skill issue to be honest. With Gretel's death out of the way, the next death was the dad's, and this one actually makes me really sad, so I rarely do this one. The Hansel death on the other hand is just funny, so doing this one at least once is mandatory. You can't really kill Mom, but you can shoot her margarita into her face, pissing her off, so that's nice. The last thing we can do in this run is actually beat it. I had to dodge and protect Hansel while dropping stones. This is actually pretty hard, and here at the very end I was expecting to see a red stain again after Hansel got swooshed away. That wasn't the case though, because somehow it glitched. I won't complain though, saves me about a minute. And with that, we were able to make it to the woods alive. And this is where the first game ends, with Hansel and Gretel sleeping soundly at a campfire. This isn't our end though. I only got 8 of the 10 possible deaths, meaning it's rewind time. Starting by going to the well and getting this raven death. I missed out on this last time since I shot him away before. The last death was a secret death. It required looking at the clock in the cutscene, which gave us a time to put in the clock, that being 4:30. Using the key that came out of the clock started our next death, and if you didn't put it together yet, it's a Shining reference. Which reminds me, I still need to watch that. Well, this is also the most brutal death by far, so it's fitting that it's the last one. I mean, just look at Hansel, he's practically pissing his pants below me at this point. And that's Gretel and Hansel 1. The first game is very short, but overall, quite good IMO. Gretel and Hansel 2 actually took me around 4 times as long to complete, so do yourself a favor, pause the video, grab yourself a drink, maybe even a light snack, because the second game is coming right up. I start the game by literally sitting here in the loading screen, clicking heads. And if you're pretty versed with Flash games, you would know some games like Epic Battle Fantasy, which is another go-to series by the way, has this type of menu as well. It's just a little thing you can do if you had a slow computer, and the best thing about it is that you got collectibles sometimes. I actually sat here for around 10 minutes just to get the Switch hat by the way. Besides that, here's the game start, where we go pick up a stone that turns into a yellow weed. It's just a weed, so we start to pull it again, and something worse came out. Hansel. We start to freak out until I hear a familiar sound. It's Dad. But he has no hair, so when I try to get him out, this happens instead. Okay, at least Hansel's still here. Well, good thing that was only just a dream. Going down to this tree, we can see that our dad left a bag with goodies inside. There was meat and a nice note, so while I look at my outfits I worked hard for, I'll read this out to you. I love you very much, Gretel. Hope you get this bag. Take care of your brother. I miss you very much, and please come home, Dad. Very sweet. And I also decided to stick with my 1000 score hat. Coming up to Hansel, you can see that he wants to meet. Yeah? How about with the side of rocks? Oh yeah, forgot he's practically invincible while asleep. So, I better give him our only food that he swallows bone and all. I honestly don't even know why I try to explain things to him sometimes. Whatever. In this next zone, we see our trail of stones. But a raven took it, and as soon as I pull my sling, it snaps. All that's left now is to jump down this very, very, very obvious pit. And to make things better, Hansel here immediately forgot about us and started to chase this little fairy to God knows where. Things actually can't be too bad though, because I dropped around other children that seem to be begging me to save them from a treant? Okay, well, that's not happening anymore. And there's that treant they were talking about. The treant doesn't seem too evil because he actually wants to give us some food, and is that a human leg? Of course, I choose the acorn because duh. And then I get to talk to some of these kids. The first one tells me that plants are death. The second kid is not with us. And the third kid, who's practically a tree now, also says plants are bad. So, when the tree comes back, I have a pretty big decision to eat or not to eat. YOLO! This wasn't even all that bad. I have a little coat hanger on my forehead now. Jokes aside, this game isn't in line with the real story anymore. It's sort of like the adventure before the finale, which is sick to be honest. Back to the game though, I try the pie and everything seems to be fine. Until I start shaking and just straight up explode. I exhausted all my good guy options now, so it's cannibal path. And that's not bad because I like feet. I'm joking. The arm was next, and an interesting thing about this is that we actually get to keep it. Sadly, not our stomach acids though. Of course, with all this meat, we have to wash it down with something, so a nice spirit like this red wine will do. I also ate this apple with a skull on it to keep the cannibalism theme going, but that grew a twig on my forehead. As long as this last thing doesn't look good, I should be dead! The solution here was to pick up your wine and then spit it out, which apparently lights this guy up like a Christmas tree. Well, with him gone, and probably a pile of charcoal somewhere, we were now able to grab the knife and make our escape. Sadly though, for some reason, we can't save any of these kids. So, off to the next room, where, yep, he's toast. And the guy above me probably has seen better days. Whatever though, we were now able to rip the tree's arm off, and now we had a weapon. Using our weapon on the bookshelf gives me a book, and reading this book just starts some occult shit. I don't even know what to say. So, I just make a path and exit this musty ass area. This brings us to the surface where we have 4 paths. There's also a trap here to catch the bunny hiding behind the log. And to the right of the log, currency that we have no use for just yet. In the zone to the left, I find a bear trap. I get to showcase my literal 0 self-control. Another zone later, I find a very weird white tree with eyes on it. I have no clue what meaning this tree has, but if you pulled on its root 3 times, a chest starts to form on the bottom right. I had to do this 3 times for the other 3 roots as well. I don't know, it just didn't feel right. Well, with this weirdness out of the way, I get to open the chest and get some glasses. And these are actually pretty cool. You get to see things that you can't normally see. For example, in this zone you have an owl, and in the next zone, you have some eyes looking back at you. Going to the right, I find myself face to face with a bear. And you know, I unlocked this bear hat from the intro when I got 500 coins, so maybe, just maybe we're cool. I honestly don't know what I expected. Anyways, using our glasses shows a clear revenge path. But before that, I picked up this frog. I also noticed that I needed an axe here. Well, going up, I found this bell. Ringing it is how we finally meet our trader. They're a little suspicious, but also has a lot of things that are available. The carrot being the only thing we can really afford, so that's a good start. Setting the carrot down, we bait the rabbit out, and finally, we trap him. I also found myself hitting him, and to clarify, I'm a very normal human being who got an achievement for doing so. Well, after a long while of hitting him, I found that does nothing, so I sliced him down the middle, and I took his heart.
I haven't even finished breakfast and that boy ain't right.
Going to the right from the trader, I saw something very weird. A woman with no face. She seems to be crying, so I use my glasses to see that it's showing a flashback. Well, let's read into this. She has a husband, and he goes off somewhere. He then comes back and kicks the door down for some reason, and while rummaging through things, he finds an axe. Using that axe, he strikes her down, and then we can see him bury the axe, while the wife crawls out. And hold on, this isn't even the weird part yet, because this creature comes out of nowhere, and puts her hand on the woman's face, and steals it. I don't know why that was relevant, so check out this frog I threw onto this bear trap. With the bear trap now in my possession, I was able to go and set it up. All I had to do now was throw the rabbit heart in as bait, and once the bear smelled it, the deal was sealed. Going past the bear, I found a zone with a coin bag and a pitcher. Going up, I was able to make it to the woman, and no, hitting her doesn't do anything, so I went to go look at this note, which wanted me to buy the scroll. And that's exactly what I did. Not sure what the scroll does story-wise, but it is practically necessary because it lets you fast travel, and let's be real, who hates that? Well, as I was about to go to a new zone, I saw a hand that looked a bit familiar. If you played Fear and Hunger, you'd know not to touch this. So, I pulled out the arm I munched on from the dinner scene and shook this guy's hand. For that, I got 5 coins. Moral of the story, cannibalism equals good. Going to the right, I found this green water that, thankfully, isn't acid, so I started traversing it. What it is, though, is apparently infested with vipers, and so, this was a pretty slow and awful death. Oh, and fun little thing I randomly noticed is that it kind of looks like she's doing the Terminator thumb thing. Walking around a bit, I found this very convoluted area, so I just picked up the money bag and left. My newfound money was going to get me something very important, the shovel. This bad boy lets you dig around the map, getting things like a coin bag, and most importantly, this hatchet. I feel pretty powerful with my new hatchet, but it's not your weapon, so I look dumb now. And now, I look dumb and dead. At this point, I pretty much explored everything I can. All that's left is this tree I needed to chop through. On the other side, guess who I finally found? Hansel. And he was still just messing around with those fairies. As Gretel is yelling at him, she notices them too. And no matter how smart she is, I guess she just can't resist the cuteness. This was a pretty wholesome scene. Rarely you get to see Gretel having fun. That's until I noticed one of these creatures from before. We know it steals faces, and even so, Gretel followed it around the lake and stood in front of the reflection. Not really sure why she stared at it. Of course, the worst thing that can finally happen, happened. With my face gone, it was probably up to Hansel to save us. And even though they brought him over, anything she says doesn't matter because this actual monkey just sticks her straight into his mouth. Holy shit, we're doomed. We had no choice now but to play as the fairy, and get Hansel to save the fairy queen locked in the cage top right. We first had to get rid of those flowers to the right to do so. So, I told Hansel to pick up the scissors, and as soon as I went to pass through him, he just cuts me in half like a fucking monster. Okay, try 2. I'm careful this time and told him to pick up the scissors and go get rid of those flowers. What he does next though, just left me speechless.
How? 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 I don't know!
Okay, onto the solution. We had to bring him next to the flowers and fill his container up with water. You literally cannot guess what he does next. My brother in Christ pulls his pants down and just starts pissing, which somehow works. Whatever, I guess we just gotta trust the process. What he does next though, makes me not want to trust anything anymore. Because my dude pulled this move straight out of Lady and the Tramp. Who really is a demon here? Let's forget this ever happened. With the creature's head in hand, we go back to the lake, where the Queen Fairy takes the face and gives it back to Gretel. This is also where my favorite scene in this game happens. Although Hansel's existence is just the worst thing ever, she still loves him. We now had the mirror, which we know could steal faces. We also had Hansel as our sidekick now, but he mostly just stands around and looks hittable. His true and only real use is to piggyback me through the swamp because I guess he's snake-proof or something. On the other side of the swamp, I found a tree that needed water and this ancient puzzle that I solved quite quickly. This gave me a torch. Going further to the right, I found this weird skull tree, and I had no idea what that was, so I tried to cross the swamp. And nope, this is actually acid now. At the very least, I saw a secret hole and dug it, finding this strange but useless tablet. We had that, I guess. All that left was the tree that needed water, so I grabbed water from the stream, and once I poured it, absolutely nothing happened. And I thought, maybe you wanted more water, so I tried it again. You know, maybe you needed more water.
Did I ever tell you the definition
Perhaps a bit more water.
of insanity?
Maybe this is the last water that it needs. Yeah, doing that a bunch does nothing, so I walked around and found that the glasses actually show some sort of bloodbath in here. That was a pretty sick find, and for anyone yelling about the fairy lake, yeah, I hear you. I'm pissed it took me this long as well. And yes, the water here is actually diff. Pouring it instantly brought this apple tree to life. This meant I was able to get an apple, and if you were very observant before, you know this apple slid straight into this tree. So now, we had a bridge. This goes to another bridge that goes to a cliff, where I can finally do something I've been waiting a very long time to do.
This is Sparta!
Okay, with that out of my system, I found gargoyles that are missing body parts. These little totems are the answer to that. However, I have no idea how to get the body parts inside them. Going in the ice cave, I found some braziers that needed to be lit, but before that, I bought the bow because I was filthy rich. With a torch in hand now, I was able to go light the brazier. But I quickly found out that lighting both of them is probably not the best thing because I got picked up and turned into a human popsicle. You only had one option here, and this is probably the one choice in game, which actually changed the story a bit. So between the arrow and the bone, I just had to pick the arrow. Well, with my new bow and arrow, I wanted to use it, so I tried shooting the creature first, then Hansel, and finally, I remembered the steer. Killing this thing made the totem in the back cover its eyes, giving me a stone eye, and now it made sense. I had to make them regret having senses. Inserting the eye into the gargoyle spawned in a portion of this bridge, so we now had a foreseeable goal. Going into this zone with a huge flower and using the glasses showed a hidden path. There's actually a ton of things here, but of course, since there's something that's alive, I have to hit it. And for that, I fucked around and found out. Grandpa here may be missing his face, but he ain't defenseless. And on the topic of his face, I used my glasses and saw that the man once did have a face. And the faceless thing took his face, and of course his hat, which is why he's so riled up. Well, unfortunately, I was standing literally in the spot where I probably shouldn't have been, because the moment this box went away, I turned into juice. Coming back, I found that this coward goes into the ground like some mole rat. So, I had to dig him up. This stunned him, giving me enough time to pull the mirror out and take the face back, along with the hat. After giving the man his face back, and more importantly, his cool PI hat, I found that this little side quest actually has a pretty good reward. Just listen up to this banger. Well, on the topic of listening, I found that picking up this turnip makes it cry, so I ran it back to the zone I was in, and made this totem cover his ears, giving up his hearing. Going back to this flower area, I put my tablet in from earlier, and I was able to set the time to day. Doing that made the flower bloom, and I saw the creature who stole the face from that one woman who was murdered. Well, I took the face back and went back to the woman. After giving her face back, I wasn't sure what she'd do, but this made her start to bleed. I guess this is sort of like freeing her soul? I don't really know. Back to the story. This totem with his mouth open is the yapper, so I started speaking evil shit around him, and this made him cover his mouth, giving us the final piece. Inserting the final piece fully manifested the bridge into reality, and before I can cross it though, I had to celebrate just a tiny bit. Okay, time to finally do this. After I crossed the bridge, I saw a wolf, and this is where the option between the bow and the bone comes into effect. You can also do nothing, which, well, you die, and thanks for the help, Hansel. Going back, we get to finally put that fancy arrow to the test, and so Gretel just domes this guy, giving us a cool achievement. With that, I only had two things left to do. The first being to hit Hansel, for not being more useful, and I mean hit him. And only after so long, he actually fought back. Fair enough, to be honest. I actually got some respect for him after that. Well, it's time for the last zone, where we see this giant house that I assume is a witch's house that eats you? Not sure. But I'm sure this is the end of Gretel and Hansel's adventure, for now. And of course, not the end for us. I actually got 13 out of the 14 deaths, which is actually pretty good, and so, let's run it back. The one death I was missing involved the tablets here. I had to make it nighttime, which brought out these little mushrooms. These mushrooms must have been psychedelic because it spawned some of these ghosts. And they were not chill because I soon started to get blasted, and after a while, I just popped. I also didn't get a transition screen for some reason. And for this being the only glitch I found, it was pretty funny. With all these deaths, we can finally go to this tree, which has been tracking my deaths with skulls. It led to this Easter egg where we have these robots that are just straight replicas of us. After the tree fully submerged back down, we were now playing as the robots, in an area with 2 other robots that I believe are the devs. The guy with the cool hair in the corner says things like, "Hello world, part 3 will be here really soon," and that's a lie, which I don't know if this was updated at some point, but it was pretty funny. The last thing he did was thank me and kicked his head across the room, and well, that's it. That's Gretel and Hansel 2. With pretty much everything I could do completed, I was satisfied, and my nostalgia was sated. All that's left now is to say thanks for watching, and if you liked the video, make sure to subscribe. I'm pretty close to hitting 1k subs, and I'd love to make more videos for you guys. So, finally, after much yapping, over a Flash game of course, thanks for watching this Scuff video, and bye!